Okay. We're ready for Paul's large letters. How many people have heard that one? Large letters.
Oh, yeah.
He had to write in large letters. You all heard that? So what does that mean? He's got an eye problem? This one's kind of entangled. Let's see. So we start with thorn in the flesh, and somebody will say, well, Paul was sick, and God refused to heal him, right? That's what they say. We already talked about thorn in the flesh. Doesn't say he's sick, and doesn't even, and it's got nothing to do with that. Anyway, so then, what? Oh, so, what did she say?
Oh, I said, he wasn't sick, but he had to suffer. He suffered with his thoughts and, now, he got kind of left behind, the other ones all.
Okay, so people say that the thorn in the flesh, they think they've got it figured out. He's got an eye problem. And there are two other verses that they use for this. One is Galatians 6:11. So see how large, see what large letter I've written to you in my own hand. Another one is Galatians 4:13 through 15. Where they would have plucked out their eyes for him if they could. Okay. So where do we start? Let's start with Galatians. It says in 4:13 to 15, Galatians 4:13. You know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel to you at the first. In my temptation, which was in my flesh, you despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of God, even as Christ Jesus. Where is then the blessedness you spoke of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and given them to me. So there you have it. Paul had an eye problem. Let me just say something else about these proof texts. It occurred to me pretty quickly that the people using them, want to find a case where the Apostle Paul was sick or left somebody sick or something. So if they can find an exception, then they can justify a sickness. And if they justify, but what happens is that if they justify the one sickness, they justify the next one and the next one and the next one. And the next one and the next one, until the exception becomes the rule. So really what they start by saying, well, God doesn't always heal, But really what they mean to say, they don't say this, but what they really mean is God almost never heals. So if they could find an exception, they would generalize that to the rule. You follow what I'm saying? And it's like, well, God almost never heals, is what they're really getting to, because every single affliction is going to be, well, you remember Job had to wait for his deliverance, and Paul had a thorn in the flesh, was an eye problem, and told Timothy to drink a little wine, and left somebody sick somewhere, and Epaphroditus, blah, 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 and all this stuff. Okay, so they generalize it to the point that pretty much everybody, except for a few cases, is going to stay sick. The other observation I made is these people who promote these excuses where they say, well, God doesn't always heal the sick. They themselves never heal the sick. Never. 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 You will never see one of these people heal the sick. That's the way it goes. Okay, so back to the Galatians. First of all, remember I was going to bring up that the word asthenia again. Well, I'm going to do it right now. You know, through an infirmity of the flesh, that's asthenia again. Okay, so this is, Paul had a weakness. We don't know just from the word whether it's physical or non-physical, but we know it's of the flesh because it says of the flesh. So this is really of the flesh, but we don't know whether it's sickness or some other kind of weakness. Well, I'm about to tell you what it is. Because, again, you have to read the whole Bible. You have to be familiar with all the scriptures. This is Galatia. Does somebody have a big fat old Bible with Bible maps in the back of them? Somebody got Bible maps? In the back of their Bible maps. There we go. Bring that over. And in the back of any Bible that has maps, you look up Paul's first missionary journey. Let's see, Exodus and the conquest, land of the 12 tribes, in my Bible, Kingdom of Solomon, Jesus' ministry. Oh, Paul's missionary journeys. Well, this combines them all. I kind of don't like this one because usually there's is all combined. Do you have one that just has Paul's first one?
Yeah, Belle does. Here. Oh, no, that's first and second. No,
oh, she's got one that's just got the first missionary journey? Okay, give that to me.
It's on this side.
Okay, give this one back to that woman over there. No offense. Oh, I wanted this, okay. Paul's first missionary journey. I know this is far away. Okay. Do you see this word here?
Let's see.
Galatia.
Oh.
Okay. What's in Galatia? Well, let's see. He started at Antioch in Syria, and then he goes to Salamis and then Paphos. Does this sound familiar from the book of Acts?
Yes.
Okay, so if I go to the book of Acts here, in the same Bible, and find that spot that talks about that, which I think is Acts chapter 14. Let's see. Nope, 13. Okay. So Paul and his party set sail from Paphos. They came to Perga in Pamphylia and then departed from there to Antioch in Pisidia. So there's another Antioch. Okay, now they're in Antioch in Pisidia. Okay, and then they go to Iconium. See this big word, Galatia here? They're in Galatia. Okay, for the first time. Remember what we read here? I preached the gospel to you at the first. In Galatians, he's referring to his first missionary journey there. Okay, and then, where am I?
Iconium?
Yeah, so then it gets kind of into what he did there. And Iconium is 14, chapter 14. At Iconium, they all went together to the synagogue. The Jews spoke great multitude. Unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brethren. Therefore, let's see, they became aware of it and fled to Lystra. So we go from Iconium to Lystra. Here's Lystra. I know it's small, but from there to there. This is Galatia. Okay. There, man crippled from birth, and Paul speaks. He heals them. And you remember the story? They all say, oh, they're gods. So Barnabas is Zeus, and Paul is Hermes, and they go to worship them, and the Apostle Paul tears his robes and says, we're just men, don't worship us. These are useless idols, turn from them, you know. And then the Jews from Antioch and Iconium came down there, persuaded the multitudes. They stoned Paul, dragged him out of the city, supposing him to be dead. However, this is 14, 19, and 20. However, when the disciples gathered around him, he rose up and went into the city. And the next day they departed with Barnabas to Derbe. So he was either stoned to death or nearly to death. I don't know which it is. He was stoned to death. They got him up. Or it doesn't matter. They got him up anyway. And, well, I think I've answered the question about his weakness of the flesh. What do you think? No? Are you shaking your head because you say no?
No, meaning like there was no, I mean, he traveled everywhere.
No, you missed the point. It says here, back to Galatians 4:13, you know how through a weakness of the flesh I preached the gospel to you at first. And you received me as an angel, actually, angel is angelos, which is messenger, a messenger of God, even as Christ Jesus. Okay, so his infirmity, his weakness, his bodily weakness was that he was just stoned to death or nearly to death. Give the Apostle Paul a break. I mean, really. So, whose Bible is this? You can take this Bible back. Thank you very much. Now you know what the infirmity of the flesh was. Okay, he's alive, okay, but he's recovering from his... I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have been stoned. I certainly haven't. But must be pretty messy. Okay, so the next thing is... and by the way, with the eye problem, I mean, wasn't it Paul got healed of his, temporary blindness by Ananias? I think he could see pretty well. So that gets us to the last thing, which is Galatians 6:11. And Galatians 6:11 is large letters. Now we get into a case of clearly academic dishonesty. This is pathetic. This is academic dishonesty. And people speaking and say, well, you know how he had to write large letters. So he must have had an eye problem. Either those people are just parroting out what their pastor or some professor said, in which case they just don't know what they're talking about. They're just repeating what they heard. Or they know the actual text, the Greek text and, the writing, and they're being dishonest. Okay. So Galatians, Galatians 6:11. I'll read that to you in the Greek. Galatians 6:11. Okay. So, adete, that's behold. Pηλικοις, with what? And that's the first word, which they're translating large. Umen, which is to you. Grammasin, letters. Agrapsa, I write. Te, me, Kyrie. I'm writing with my own hand. The two words are pηλικοις and grammasin. Okay, now pηλικοις is a word that means how great, and it's usually not translated large. In fact, the word is used in Hebrews. I'm looking for my reference here in my notes. Hebrews. In Hebrews, where it's talking about Melchizedek, remember? Looking for the exact reference, and I don't see it here because I have to read through. I don't see the exact reference. If somebody can look it up, I appreciate it. What?
Chapter 7.
Oh, 7:14, that's right. Is it 7:14? It says that Melchizedek was behold how great a man Melchizedek was. Right? 7:14 is it? I just want to get it right. I think it's in 7. Somebody will find it. It says, behold, this is the only other place that it occurs in the New Testament. So Melchizedek, they're not saying Melchizedek was a large man. He wasn't fat, he wasn't tall. Okay? He was a great man. Okay, that should be the first clue. The other place you see it is talking about greatness. Okay. The next one is gramma. And there are several words. There's graphe, which is a writing, grapho, which is the verb form, which is to write or inscribe, gramma, and I'm going to say this again, that the mu alpha tag means a manifestation or effective, so it's the result of writing, so referring to the writing inscription itself or what it, write effects. And then in the New Testament you see grammateus, which is a writer or scribe, and grapton, which is a thing that has been written or inscribed upon. And then with the prefix epi, which is upon, writing or inscription upon, epigraphe and epigrapho, to write or inscribe upon. I'm just giving you all these things just to give you a sense of what the graph, the gramma part for. Obviously, we get the word grammar from this. We get the word graph from that in English. But it only refers to something that is inscribed upon. Now, here's where the dishonesty comes, and it's a play on the English language. In English, if I say letter, okay, that refers to one of two things. It's either a personal, it's a document that I mailed somebody, right? So we often say, well, these are Paul's letters. Okay, that's English, and that's rooted in, not Greek, but Latin. We get the word letter in English from litera in Latin, not from graphe or gramma. So it can mean either a letter, there's something that you write to somebody, or an alphabetic character. Alphabetic character. That's English. We don't have a word for alphabetic character in Greek. We don't. This word is more general and just refers to something that is, some form of writing or inscription. So when you put those together, then you see that it's how, look what grand writings I write with my own hand. It has nothing to do with, alphabetic character as opposed to number or a special character like punctuation. And to say that to say that Galatians 6:11 is talking about some alphabetic character is just dishonest. It just is. It's talking about grand writings. All of Apostle Paul's letters are grand. In fact, Apostle Peter wrote in his, that he has lofty writings. Some people, hard to understand, and people twist them. If any of you have read any of my articles, they're kind of long, And people say, oh, you write such long articles and they're scholarly and all this stuff. Well, actually, they're shorter than Galatians. Okay, he's got 6 chapters in Galatians, so he has fairly lofty, grand writings that he's written. I was just saying that. Okay. So that ends the large letters thing. If you wanted to say large, by the way, the word for in the Greek for large is megas. We get the word mega, the prefix mega from that. So if you want to look at some things that are large, there's using mega as a prefix, mega, mu, epsilon, gamma, alpha. And so there's a large stone over the tomb of Jesus, Matthew 27:16. A large upper room, Mark 14:13 and Luke 22:12. There's a large sheet of unclean animals dropped down over Peter in Acts 10 and 11. There's 153 large fishes, John 22:11. A large sword in Revelation 6:4. A large mountain, Revelation. Large star falling out of heaven. Large this, large that. That's mega. And in my article that I wrote on this, I also document how both Thayer and Vine's, particular Vine's expository dictionary of New Testament words actually twists this around. And the final thing to say about this is really, we're looking for critical thinking skills, really. When you're reading the Bible, think through the propositions. This is taken as an example of scholarly circular reasoning, meaning begging the question. And begging the question says, if A is true, therefore B is true, and if B is true, therefore A is true. Okay, so the circular reasoning here would be, well, Paul apparently had an eye affliction that God would not take away, therefore he had to write in large letters, i.e. alphabetic characters. If you read Galatians 6:11, you will see evidence of this affliction since he talks there about writing in large letters. Okay. The definition, next point, definition for large letters includes large alphabetic characters, reference Galatians 6:11. See how this went in one circle? Case being in point, since in this case Paul had an eye affliction that God would not take away, forcing him to write in large letters. Since one of the primary definitions of letters is alphabetic characters, Galatians 6:11 being case in point, you'll see that this is evidence that Paul had an eye affliction. If you want to know what the Greek word for letter is, look it up in a Greek English lexicon like Vine's or Thayer's, and you will see the primary or first definition is letter as an alphabetic character. Okay, and I looked this up in a classical Greek dictionary, by the way, not a Bible one, and there's no such thing. Okay, so you could see that I went around the circle twice with this. Given A is true, therefore B is true. Oh, given B is true, therefore A is true. That's circular. So, does everybody understand that? I know it was a little technical. It's okay? Everybody got it? Okay, so you understand that none of these things shows the guy Paul had an eye problem or some disease he couldn't get rid of. Okay. Okay, so next thing, I'm on page 62 of the 2013 manual. Here, this is the other excuse made. Paul left people sick. Paul left somebody sick somewhere. Okay, he's talking about Trophimus left sick. And then there's Epaphroditus, who was sick, nigh unto death, but God had mercy on him. But in verse 30 it says, because for the work of Christ he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me. Now, in these cases, we once again have this word, asthenia. Asthenia, which does not necessarily refer to a disease. It could refer to weakness. These people could have been exhausted from the missionary work that they did. And in fact, it hints at that in Philippians 2:30. It says, because for the work of Christ he was nigh unto death, that's the King James, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me. Okay, so Trophimus, Epaphroditus, just says they're weak, doesn't say anything more about it. Okay, we all good with that? Yes?
Could you just go back to the last one with Paul, where they were challenging that he had something wrong with his eyes?
What?
The last one that we were talking about with Paul?
The Paul and the eye problem? Okay, so question about the eye problem?
Yeah, so I find for myself, right, sometimes, like my eyes seem like they're not healed yet, right? Like still have an eye problem, like one have a problem, but like it just
You mean like this?
right. Like it sort of like weakens my faith. Like
Okay, well that's a different topic. Okay, and we can get to that. I just want to make sure that you understand that the scripture does not say that Paul had an eye problem. Do you understand that?
I got.
Okay, that you got. Okay, so
But if it did, like that, would that negate all scripture? Do you know what I'm saying? Like
right. So what am I doing up here wearing glasses? You all going to kick me out of here? Am I allowed to do this?
right.
I'm okay. Are you all okay with me doing this DHT? Am I doing a good job? Hello?
Yes.
Really? I'm doing a good job? Okay, I got a thumbs up from the pastor back there. I'm wearing glasses, okay, but I'm doing a good job. Okay, thank you.
So explain glasses.
Oh, we have to get the glasses. How much time have we got? How much time have I been going? 28 minutes? That's all? Okay. So yeah, my eyesight is getting better. It shouldn't be. So it is a miracle, just not instantly. And it's interesting. We know we went to Nigeria. No, Kenya. What? Nigeria?
From Nigeria.
You're from Nigeria?
Yeah.
We did go to Nigeria, but the example is not Nigeria that I'm about to give. It's in Kenya. Okay. So sorry. And the Kenyans don't like the Nigerian preachers anyway. They won't let them in. They're all the millionaire, prosperity preachers and stuff. So, we don't let them in there.
Nairobi.
What?
Is it Nairobi?
Well, it was north of there. I was in Eldoret. We were in the vicinity. Okay, so there was a school there, and I don't want to make the story too long, but we ended up, stopping for what we thought was going to be in Kenya, this Gilgil school for 3 or 4 people who needed healing. And by the time we got there, we were praying for the teachers, and there were 30 people. And I said, okay, to my Kenyan team members, whom I had kick-started, okay, let's just break it up into groups and get this done. By the time we got into the auditorium, there were 300 children there needing healing. And everybody, all 300, of the 300 there, many of them had afflictions, some of them demonic. It was a Christian school, too. And everybody was healed, except for maybe 2 or 3 people who ended up with, some nearsightedness. But it was interesting that if you watch the video, you know, there's so many people lining up on stage. I thought I just waved my hand and proclaimed healing, and then did it again until we got it down to about 30 people. I said, okay, those 30 people who are still remaining, still not healed, line up to the stage here, and our group will get it. Well, our Kenyan group will get it, take care of you. And then they kept lining up, and there was more than 30, and more than 30, and more than 30. And so there must have been 100 or more. So I they're praying for people here, and some demon manifested there, and some girl screaming or whatever. And I walked over and started praying for people in line. And it was amazing. A lot of them had just vision problems. They couldn't see the blackboard. And I prayed over them, and pretty much all of them were healed. They could see clearly. I said, read that over there. Could you read that? Okay, is it clear? Good, you're good. Next person. You know, and here I am wearing glasses, and a thought crossed my mind. It's like, what do they think about this? You know, the guy with glasses is praying over people who would need glasses, probably can't afford them, and they're getting healed. And it's like, so one person after another, and they weren't all vision problems, but, there were a lot of them, and I was just healing them. So the first thing, the principle from this is that whatever you have has nothing to do with them. And I had this saying that, this rule of thumb, whatever you want to call it, that I developed early on. One thing doesn't have to do with the other. The one thing doesn't have to do with the other. So just because I wear glasses doesn't mean that I can't proclaim healing over somebody who needs glasses, and then they don't need glasses. That's exactly what happened there. And nobody pointed and said, what are you doing praying over me when you have glasses on? Okay, so if I have faith for their vision to fix, okay, it gets fixed. Now, as far as my own, it's just your typical, as myopia. I got glasses when I was 10 years old, so nearsightedness, and then very, 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 very typical. As you get into your 40s, myopia is just the shape of your eyeball, right? And it focuses, the focal point is a little bit, before or after the retina. Some of you have probably seen pictures of that. So the eyeball is, one way or the other. And then the presbyopia, that's from Greek. Presbyter is an elder, so an opia is eyes. So that's old eyes, and as your bones get harder as you grow older, you know how babies, you can drop them on the floor, the bones are rubber, nothing breaks, and they just cry and get over it in a few seconds, But the old people, they come crashing down, and it's like the hips broken, the legs broken, everything, because the bones become harder and more brittle with age. And so the same thing happens to the, generally, this is the natural progression, by the way. I'm not talking spiritual yet. The lens inside your eyeball, muscles will compress or expand it to bring things into focus. And as a person gets older, it naturally gets harder. The lens gets harder, and so it's harder to pull it back and forth. And so around 40s, most people start holding, they can't get that close, and holding things at a distance, and they get reading glasses. And so, I have bifocals. A few years ago, I said, well, why am I putting up with this? And I'm going to pray over it and believe my eyes are going to get better. And the miracle of it is that my presbyopia has reduced and reduced greatly, to the point that I have a greater focal range. And that's impossible because bones, lenses, things like that don't get softer with age, they get harder. And then the other. So I was almost to the point, I just tested last year for my renewing my driver's license, and decided to take my glasses off and see if I could read all those letters without my glasses, and I missed only one. But That wasn't enough. They said, nope, you've got to read all the letters, or else you've got the, and they are, requires corrective lenses on your driver's license. So next time, I'm gonna read them all. Okay, so I'm just saying that. Just I'm not ignoring it. Okay, it didn't happen like that, but I'm not worried about it. Yeah. So does that answer your question about eyeglasses? Okay, you're going to get what you believe. Basically, your faith is all about expectations. What do you really expect to happen? When we get into some of these questions like, well, I prayed and nothing happened, and I believed. Well, no, you didn't. The evidence being nothing happened, and I'm sorry to say, but what did you really expect to happen? Well, praise God, I expected to. No, that's not what you expected. So, how did we get into this?
I guess that question when I get stopped in last.
Oh, you got back to Paul and the eye problem. Okay, so Paul didn't have an eye. There's no evidence Paul had any kind of eye problem. Okay, so we had finished, Paul left somebody sick somewhere, and then there's Timothy's stomach. Okay, so he's not, he's being told don't drink water, but use a little wine for your stomach, and your often, your asthenia. There it is again. His weaknesses, so, I don't know, does he have a weak stomach, and he's not used to the water? And being told to take a little wine for it. And it's like, what is the big darn deal? And look, I mean, you can, as I said, Jesus healed thousands and thousands of people, right? And they're all dead. Okay, what's up with that? Well, nothing's up with that. They're all buried in the ground. So, healing is a sign. Healing is for now. That doesn't prevent somebody from getting sick again with this thing or something else. Okay, so Paul can't stand over Timothy at a distance and keep, we have the benefit of internet. We're connected. I mean, even 50 years ago we had telephones, at least. We could even make international calls. They're expensive, but we could do it. Remember, dial 0 and then the country code and then the foreign phone number, and you get through. And expensive, but you could do it. But they had none of this stuff. So he's going to find out from some messenger or a letter that there's some problem with Timothy. What's he supposed to do about it? So at a distance. All right. So that takes care of section 6. And how much time have we got?
39.
39? Okay. Let me just check my notes here. And what we have covered. Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to take a break anyway. It's only been 40 minutes. Is that okay? And just kind of a division of topics here. Did we have? Oh, wait a minute. Did I have a couple of questions in the back? No, I'll take care of those later. Okay. Now let's take a quick break again, and we'll get back and to section 7, divine healing by faith, and move right along.